I make sure it's reflected on the YouTube. Like it is. That is out there. Spider-Noir. Spider-Noir. Does whatever a Spider-Noir does. Wait. But it looks like there's nothing else left to say, but hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason. That's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by comicbookclick.com. And I have to press this button.
Recording in progress.
So let's run that back. Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don. And if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason. It's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by comicbookclick.com. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
In the dark and gritty streets of Ohio, they call out for someone fantastic. I'm Frank Jerome.
Damn right. The fantastic Frank Jerome is here, and we're here to talk all things Spider-Noir, a show that seemingly no one asked for, but absolutely had some surprising enjoyability to it. Before we get into our spoiler-free recap and review, I just want to ask two things up front, Frank. One, are you familiar or a fan of the noir genre? And two, what did you think of this show, minus spoilers?
I am, to the first question. I'm a pretty big fan of noir in general. I freely admit that when it comes to movies, there are a lot I haven't seen. I actually, when I finished watching Spider Noir, I went out and bought Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon
Okay, okay.
because I watched the whole thing in black and white. So I was like, oh, they nailed that black and white noir feel. What's next? Ooh, I'll go buy those.
100%. I saw the first episode. I did a mini review on it because I thought it was enjoyable, but I was still in the mindset of like I get very frustrated sometimes. The feeling I had after watching this, it was kind of like the feeling I had after watching Joker, where it was like this is a very adult take on like this is a very adult take that takes place in a universe that isn't really consequential. And
Mm.
it almost frustrates me sometimes in the geek way of being like, why can't you just have the same level of care for the mainline stuff? But after getting past, my own hiccups regarding the show, and definitely after that first episode, I found myself really liking it. And then by the end, like I I I love the campy nature to it. I love the weird, odd humor in it. Nick Cage is a tour de force, whether that's a
Oh,
good
he's
or a
Nick
bad
Cage.
thing. Yeah, whether that's a good or a bad thing. He definitely gets to Nick Cage it out in this,
Oh, yeah.
which is super interesting. The story is different enough that you can still get some twists and turns in it, but it also lends so much of its plot to classic noir. Feels like,
Oh,
for
very much.
instance, yeah, for instance, I looked over to a friend of mine when I was watching it, and I'm like, how big was the epidemic of guys walking into jazz bars and falling in love with the singer? Because that is like in every single when there's just
It was
multiple
pretty
men,
damn big.
yeah, when there's just multiple men in fedoras just falling in love with whoever the lounge singer was.
Oh, it's
Um,
the noir version of groupies.
yeah, there you go, there you go. Um, we're gonna get into a full recap and review of this show. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you do. I do think it's something worthwhile. I do think it's something that people are going to enjoy when everything is said and done. And I don't know where it fits in the overall scheme of what Sony's trying to get up to. But it was small enough stakes that I was able to be invested in everybody, even though this wasn't about the end of the world, right? This wasn't about two planets colliding with each other or some otherworldly being coming to destroy a lot of stuff. This was like most noir stories are really about the interpersonal relationships between people, good or bad. The power struggle between a mobster and an elected official, which a very thin line between those two things nowadays. um, and this story of a reluctant hero, of a guy who spent a lot of his life seemingly doing the right thing for the good guys, but ultimately being discouraged because somebody that they knew close to them got hurt, got and how he ends up getting roped back into all of this madness. So yeah, I super dug. Hold on over here. I super dug the oh I'm I super dug how they laid this out, and also I'm a humongous fan of um is it Brendan Gleeson?
Oh, Silvermane?
But yeah, Brendan Gleeson,
Yeah.
who I didn't know much about prior to, like, the very first thing I saw him in was um Banshees of Inisherin. No, I'm fucking butchering
Okay.
that. Have you ever seen that before?
I have not seen it. I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I had heard amazing things about it and I checked it out. It's really a fun movie about men's friendships and what happens in the middle of Ireland. And then the next thing I would end up seeing him in was um Joker. He was actually in Joker. Uh,
Oh yeah.
he was oh Joker 2. I'm sorry. Do. He was in that.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, right. He was in that, and he played a cruel prison guard. But I
Okay.
think I think he did a tremendous job in here in being a like frightening mob boss who isn't like a cackling villain. We have a cackling villain. I feel like what's his face is pretty cackling. Megawatt. I feel like he's pretty cackling,
Megawatt.
and
Yeah, I couldn't think of his actual name, but yeah, Megawatt. Oh, he's over the top enough for everybody.
yeah, and but I like that not everyone is like that. I like that there is somebody that is. That's very important. But I like that it's not everyone, if that makes
Yes.
any sense. Um,
Right. Like
so
Silvermane is, he's your standard 30s gangster,
yeah, and
pretty
then
much to a
like
T.
I'm sitting there at one point, and I'm just like, Nick Cage is just doing like Humphrey Bogart, and then like Cagney, and then he just starts doing it, and then that's part of it's like roped into his actual like personality that he has studied these people in a way to learn how to act more human. This show is a roller coaster of ridiculousness, and it basically promises, if you're willing to go for the ride, that you will have fun and go in places that you didn't think it was going. By the time we get to like the last couple of episodes, it's a completely different show than when this started. It felt very, at the
Well,
beginning,
very
felt very like
much, yes.
grounded and very like non fantastical, and then we're in the middle of man spiders and people getting bit and all kinds of nitty gritty stuff. But yeah, I'm chomping at the bit to talk about this. So let's go ahead and get started. To do a little bit of homework up front. Spider-Noir is a neo-noir superhero series developed by Oren Uziel for Prime Video and MGM Plus. Based on the Marvel Comics Spider-Man Noir, the series follows an aging private investigator and superhero navigating 1930s New York while confronting his past. Set in an alternate universe within Sony's Spider-Man universe, the series stars Nicolas Cage as Ben Reilly, known as the Spider, in his first leading television role. The cast also includes Lamorne Morris, Lee Jun Lee, Jack Houston Huston, and Brandon Gleeson. And um, another thing I wanted to say is that one of the gripes I had, so I'm just going to get it out of the way before we start this, is that I was very curious, and I guess I still don't know the rhyme or reason why he couldn't just be the Noir from Spider-Verse.
I thought he was. Because like
Yeah,
the very opening line, somebody asked me what universe I was from.
yeah. Like
So
I,
I kind of thought he was the one from Spider-Verse.
I thought if he was, it just lends so much gravity to that character, even though he's ridiculous in other people's worlds. If you look at him, you're like, oh wow, that was the guy who took on Silvermane and Megawatt and Sandman and all these people. I think that changes the context in a good way. Like it gives more again gravity to that character. And like I would have, this is all selfish, but like I would have been very excited to see a Rubik's cube in the background. Like that would have been really cool.
Okay.
It's like, and where Janet's like, "What the heck is this?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it." Got it from a friend. Um, but
That
yeah,
would have been cool now that you say that.
yeah. But instead, in here, he's Ben Riley, which also had a lot of people raise their eyebrows because Ben Riley is a notable character from the comics. He is a clone of Peter Parker. Uh, so most, if not all, interpretations of Spider Noir is just Peter Parker in the
It's Peter Parker.
1930s, 40s. Did you read
Right.
the series at all?
I
Spider
did.
Noir series?
Yeah. Um, this is very different than the book.
I'm assuming the book
You
plays a
know,
little bit more straight.
a little bit, yeah. And like you said, he's definitely, Peter Parker, and it's all just a little more comic booky, I guess. They don't go into the noir quite as much.
Okay.
Um, so for this, they did as they like to do. They took the property, they took the characters, they said we have a story we want to tell, and that's what we're going to tell. Darn it! And I give them credit; it was a good story.
Yeah, and it's funny because this show made me realize something about comic book shows, but also comic book series in general that I like. I'm starting to realize that for a lot of these things to make me enjoy them, you need a strong supporting cast. I think this show has a very strong supporting cast. I think everybody that you're meant to cheer for or who are friends with Ben or who are trying to help Ben accomplish, his goals as the protagonist. I think they're all charming. They're all people that like I never found myself being like, "Oh my god, this person's on screen." That can happen.
I was even rooting for some of the bad guys.
Yeah, yeah. I think that everyone has just enough of their own sort of personality and goals that it really really makes this interesting when cuz sometimes when you get in one of these shows you're like, "Oh, well, if the other characters, the side characters are not interesting, don't cut to them." I'm saying like I don't want like don't cut away from the protagonist if you're just gonna show me like some weird B plot about Janet and Robbie, getting a plant for the office or something, like I give me something a little more to sink my teeth into. And I found myself really digging a lot
I don't
of
know. They could have made that fun.
they could have made, but just because those actors I feel like are charming. And so like they really it really lends itself to that. But yeah, let's get into it. I will show you people these. I really also liked a lot of the posters and stuff that they came out with for this. The look of this is gorgeous, and I did the very 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 silly thing of watching all of this show in black and white until quite literally the last 5 minutes, and then I switched it to color.
Oh wow.
How did you ingest Spider Noir?
Where to finish black and white.
Straight to finish. I wanted like a
Yep.
Wizard of Oz sort of, Wizard of Oz sort of ending. I gave myself a little bit of a Wizard of Oz ending. And you know what's crazy, man? The when you shoot stuff for black and white, and I didn't know this. I was a neophyte to this entire sort of production step, but I remember watching the disassembled for WandaVision, and that was something where they had to shoot the first, the first like Bewitched kind of parody
Oh yeah,
in
yeah.
black and white. And when you saw like Vision and stuff, he's not the colors he usually is. He's darker colors in an effort to pop more in black and white. And I didn't realize
Uh,
that sort of that sort of trick of you almost have to make it blue to look pink or like like some kind of weird alchemy going on there. And so in an effort to make this pop in black and white, it is so vivid in color and in a way that cinema hasn't done in a while. There's a big conversation going on in general about how washed out a lot of these Hollywood projects look, especially compared to
oh yeah, it's horrible.
yeah, especially compared to some of the stuff that we've seen just 15, 20 years ago. And so in those last couple minutes, I'm like, this is like beautiful. Like the saturation is beautiful, the lighting is beautiful. Um, I don't know if the right lessons are going to be learned because Bollywood very rarely learns the right lessons. But I found myself really captivated, and I know a lot of people, watched it all the way through in color. Um, what do you think about having that option? Do you think they should have stuck to their guns and just made this whole thing in one version, or do you like the idea of being able to switch back and forth, or eventually getting up, like upping the rewatchability by being able to watch it in the other?
actually really like the option of doing it twice because I mean, like, I approached it as, all right, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be mildly pretentious purist about this. It's a noir. I'm watching it in black and white, but not everybody likes black and white. Some people, they see a black and white movie, doesn't matter how good it is, they can't watch it.
Yeah, there's one
So to
part.
have that option,
Yeah, there's one part where he's sitting in a chair and Janet's like, "You're yellow" or something, and I'm like, "Is he yellow?" I'm like, "I don't know if he's
oh
yellow.
yeah, yeah.
I can't tell." But that's the only part where I felt like I wonder if this looks different in color. But yeah, I didn't.
Well, from what I understand, Robbie's suits and ties are incredibly colorful.
Interesting. Yeah. It's so weird because that character they've been calling him Robbie the entire time, and he's revealed to be Joe Robinson. And we'll talk about him. And I know the Robbie Robertson from Spider-Man comics forever. Um, and when I saw Joe, I'm like, oh, maybe this could be a thing where like Joe's the great grandpa of Robbie, and I'm like, that still doesn't make sense because there's no noir Spider-Man in the regular continuity. But I like the idea of the multiverse. I think that stuff really works. We can't talk about this show without talking about its protagonist, a man who has managed to stay away from television for majority of his career for taking this on, and that is Nicolas Cage as Ben Reilly. So the show drops us right in the middle of an alternate universe in 1930s New York City during the Great Depression, where Ben Reilly, played by Nicolas Cage, uh, he is the who the locals call the Spider, and he narrates like you were talking about before, where he's like, people ask me what kind of universe I'm in. You can tell there's a real off kilter, unpredictable nature to this guy, and he's doing the perfect 1930s accent for a lot of this. It is camp as hell, but I feel like starting with narration and starting with that sort of accent really sets the tone of what we're about to watch in this here. And I kind of like the Spider as opposed to Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man is kind of simplistic when you think about it on the face of it, but thus
Yeah.
the Spider rings to like the Shadow or the Spirit, like those kind of pulpy sort of heroes of their day. Um
Now the only thing there is a pulp hero
oh,
called the
you're
Spider.
yeah, I was about to say you're right. Yeah, there is a pulp hero called the Spider. I wonder if they clashed with
So
any
there's
sort of
a little bit
trademark.
of a no pun intended gray area there.
Yes, yes, there is. Um, After a quick look at how he operates, we see Ben navigating his civilian life as a struggling private reporter alongside his sharp secretary, Janet Ruiz, played by Carmen Rodriguez. That's again, a thankless role, like playing the receptionist, and they could have had her be very one note, but I found her very funny. I found her very engaging, and I think my favorite part is he calls Ben out all of the time. All of the time.
Uh-huh.
I I possibly didn't laugh or smile as big as the sequence of her finding out that he's the Spider 4 or 5 different times. He's like, "How'd you know?" And he's just drunk to the gills, going, "I'm the Spider."
I think I'm gonna start yelling, "Spider's busy, Janet," when I want somebody to leave me alone.
Oh my god, it's so great. Um, uh, the business gets a much needed boost when a client named Mr. Carty hires them to snap photo evidence proving that his lounge singer wife, Kat Hardy, who's played by Lee Jun Lee, is being unfaithful. Um, I also like a bit of the subversion of the trope. I feel like if it was a classic noir, this would have been a blonde-haired woman in this role.
Oh yeah.
That I think that's all. Like every single black and white movie I've ever seen, I feel like, except for like stuff that Audrey Hepburn's in, is blonde women with the glow
Yeah.
sort of on the lens. Um, but immediately, because of what I know of the noir thing, I'm like, I'm not trusting her. It's gonna take a very long time before I trust her because usually that's where the other shoe drops. What do you think of Lee Jun Lee as Kat Hardy in this? And I guess this is like possibly a throwback to or a callback to the Black Cat. Felicia Hardy literally putting the name
Yeah,
Cat
that was
in it. It's kind of
yeah,
strange.
a little
Like
on the nose.
Spider Parker, it's like one of those kind of things. But what do you think of her
I
performance in
thought she
this?
did a really good job with a character that was probably a little more all over the map than everybody else.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I mean, her it made sense. You know, her most of her shifting motivations or loyalties, I guess we'll call it, because she's the femme fatale. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
You know, they made sense, but you know, she was probably on the lower end of my favorite characters. I thought she did a really good job.
yeah.
Um, I did feel like maybe the music was just a little too modernish for the setting.
I could see that. I, especially like she has like a song, like a sequence where she gets to sing a song, and they kind of like modernize it up a little bit. And I thought that was a kind of an odd
Yeah.
choice. Maybe trying to have their cake and eat it too. Also, in regards to her, the middle of this I feel like gets kind of messy. And so, like at one
Yes.
point, without her motivations being clear, he is seemingly tied to about four men in this, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what. And it all unfolds like any sort of detective story does. I also want to say up front that more than almost anything that I've seen, Ben Riley as Ben Riley is just as much a character in this as the Spider. Like a lot of the detective work is just Ben Riley. I was kind of impressed by that, but I like that old school hard boiled detective sort of, let's look at the money, and follow the money
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stuff. And I think they did a real good job with that here. It felt like equal parts Spider-Man and Batman at times with the
Yeah,
sort of
actually it did.
like mystery. I also want to say, apropos of nothing, I'd watch. Oh, he's gone now, but spoiler alert. But I'd watch like a Silvermane Six. Like like it's almost like a Sinister Six, but led by Silvermane. Like I was kind of like watching that unfold, and I'm like, I'd like that gang of. I guess because that's an old school Spider-Man trope that all the bad guys just kind of uh get together.
All hang out together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I dug that in this. Um,
Yeah.
to get a lead on Cat Hardy, Ben meets up with his regular journalist ally, Joe Robbie Robertson, played by Lamar Morris, to gather some neighborhood intel before tracking Cat down to the high end Redcliffe Hotel. Um, I like Lamar Morris in this very much. I thought he was funny, but he also brings a level of heart to this. He really wants to do a good job as a journalist. He believes in integrity. He believes in being the bigger and better man. He believes in sacrificing himself. If you have the power, sort of great power, great responsibility stuff that they play around with in this. He's the one that gives Ben the pep talk. He's the one that sticks to his guns the most. What do you think of Robbie Robertson in this?
I thought he was great. He believed in Ben more than Ben believed in Ben.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess we should also say up front, Ben's it wasn't his wife, right? It's just like his deep love. Not that there's any real
I
difference.
he was going to propose to her, I
Yeah,
think.
he was gonna propose to her. This is true. Is the love of his life, Ruby, was once targeted by Silvermane. Silvermane and the Spider have had this long rivalry, and so some of the audience or some of the citizens of New York City seemingly believe that the only reason why Silvermane has such a stranglehold over the city is because the Spider has retired. Um, Ben Riley doesn't have the heart to put the gear back on and try to attempt to take down Silvermane because he fears the repercussions. Again, he already lost somebody very close to him, and who knows what trying Silvermane again could be. So I do also like the little bit of the reluctant hero trope of him. There's many times where he picks his own self interest over what
Oh yeah, absolutely.
what he should
Which
do.
is which is true to the genre, and in my mind is one of the many reasons why he's Ben Riley and not Peter Parker.
I guess that makes a lot of sense too. You don't want to sully, Peter
He does
with
a
some of this.
lot of non Peter Parker things that are
Yes,
authentic to the genre, but are not Peter Parker things.
I've heard it speculated that one of the reasons why he could be Ben Riley is because Sony initially had or was given some sort of like character Bible for Peter in regards to like the nose and the the do's and the don'ts kind of stuff. And
Mm,
it goes so deep to be like he can't do drugs, he can't be like some random religion. Like the one I saw written up. This was like right around the time Sony started making their solo movies. And so they
okay.
were given some sort of edict about how they were supposed to portray the character of Peter Parker. And yeah, if you talking about like at one point this guy gets drunk and beats up a bunch of bar patrons. So maybe that's in the morality clause when it comes to the depiction of Peter Parker there. Um,
Although they do kind of have their cake and eat it too, because it is implied a couple of times that Ben Riley's not actually his name.
yes, that he changed his name, and I'm hoping that that's the case. That's the other distinction. Keeping, I mean, they don't have to do much to connect him again back to Spider Verse if that's what they wanted to do. Is all I'm saying. So hopefully something like that comes out soon. Um, Ben stakes out the hotel and witnesses Kat interacting with the city's corrupt mayor, Winston, played by Lucas Haas, who acts as Silvermane's main goon, utilizing his organic webs from the shadows to quietly intervene when the situation turns physical. Sensing a deeper conspiracy, Ben tails Winston away from the hotel and tracks him back to the burnt out ruins of a mansion owned by the city's ruthless Irish mob boss, Flynn Byrne, known to the underworld as Silvermane. I've heard Silvermane half a million times. I'm not too familiar with the character besides knowing that he's a bit of a mobster. Do you know, is there a version called Finn Byrne? Like, is that a notable alias like Lonnie Lincoln or Flint Marko?
Um, I'm actually not sure, because I just know Silvermane as the kind of cyborgish dude that's obsessed with the tablet of life.
There.
So I don't actually know his name.
What'd you think of Silvermane in this as one
Oh,
of the villains?
I thought he was great. And I said earlier, he was the like perfect 1930s mob boss. He was not over the top. He could, you could see one moment how he could actually, excuse me, actually charm people to do what he wanted. But
Yeah,
then in the next moment, he could freaking terrify you.
100%. He is able to walk around and talk with a gravitas that makes you believe that he's the man in charge. He
Oh
knows
yeah.
what's what, and he will end you if need be. But he doesn't have, like, I used to joke around with these Marvel stuff that they always very early on in the beginning like to show like the boss killing one of his own men in an effort to like show how dastardly they are. The Cottonmouth gets
Oh
someone
yeah.
thrown off a roof. Kingpin smashes somebody's head in the car door. Like it's supposed to be. They all have that, but that's always depicted as messy, and there's nothing messy about Silvermane for the most part. Like he seems like a veteran of this who knows that
Oh
any
yeah.
sort of extravagant, shows of force or power grabs are just going to put more spotlight on him. He seems like somebody who's been in the underground long enough to know that it's the quiet strength that gets you through. And watching him go head to head with Mayor Morris is a really fascinating battle about. I mean, we've known for years that how mobs had ties to political races and could sway the public and had real control over cities like New York. So watching that kind of thing, the man with the actual power versus the man with the elected power. Like at one point, Silvermane's like, "I'm the one who puts everybody in that chair. Like you think you think you're powerful because you're in that chair, but I'm gonna pick the next one and the one after that, and I'll be here when you're long gone." And that again speaks to a quiet strength, not a again mustache twirling. I like the Green Goblins of the that exist in the world, but sometimes I like
Oh
somebody who
yeah.
has a bit more poise and are able to get the job done.
And what I
Uh,
really liked with him is everybody knew he was a mob boss. It wasn't like it was a big secret. It's not like, oh my God, Wilson Fisk is the kingpin. It was like everybody's like, yeah, we know Silvermane's like the guy, and none of us can do a damn thing about it. So we're gonna pretend we don't know, but we know.
Yeah, he's somebody that just exists. You think of all the years of actual mobsters existing, right? And they couldn't get anything to pin on them. So they just they walked the streets, had their influence,
Yeah.
did their dirt, and no one could do a damn thing about it. That's to me true strength over like the again mustache twirling 30 step plan. Like there was nothing super um there was nothing like super cerebral about what he was doing. He was a muscle. He was a goon. But yeah, I still dug it. Before Ben can dig deeper into the Silvermane operation, he is suddenly ambushed and confronted by Cat's massive, imposing bodyguard, Flint Marco, Sandman, who's in this. Um, the thing about Sandman in this, I like the actor. This is Jack Huston, and I liked his sort of story arc in this. My only beef is, um, I felt like he was doing the Mystique thing of in the Marvel in the original first three X-Men films, they would do this thing where Mystique, for no real reason, you'd switch her eyes out yellow to let the audience know that it was Mystique, but in real universe it didn't really matter what was going on there. For him, he kept doing the sand hand. Like every so often he would just flex the sand hand, not to do anything, not to
Even though his face was like half sand.
yeah, yeah. So like at one point, especially at the end, I'm watching like this battle go on with some of these villains, and I'm like, oh, it's just a bunch of guys like putting their hands out, and then like the computer's doing all the other extra heavy lifting. Like they're wearing regular clothes. They don't have like extraordinary things. No one here can fly. The final fight is very street level. Um, and but a cool way to get around sort of any sort of thing ridiculous. I like how they handle the villains in this. During a tense standoff, Ben watches in shock as Flint's flesh physically transformed into heavy weighted sand when he gets aggressive, giving Ben a brutal taste of the bizarre threats hiding in the city. Ben manages to escape the encounter by handing over the photographic negatives, but the mystery follows him right back to his desk when Cat Hardy steps into his office to hire him to find Flint. When I finished this first episode and I put my review out, because I'm not necessarily a cinephile, I equated his characterization a lot to Rick's from Casablanca, where it's like
Yeah.
this guy who used to do good things, his heart is broken, so he thinks, screw it. If people get hurt, they get hurt. Not my issue. And then he's kind of pulled back in. When he starts swooning over Cat, I am not in his what do you call that? Like in his corner. I'm not in his corner for any of that stuff. I'm glad Janet was able to be in like a helpful friend kind of way, but I was like, this is not good, bro. Especially how like
Wow.
frantic he was about it. We'll get there. Looking for a way to track down her missing bodyguard, Ben and Janet comb through Flint's apartment and uncover an old military photo that connects him directly to Silvermane's inner circle at the Alcove nightclub. Ben stakes out the venue, but gets ambushed and captured by Silvermane's muscle, Perry and Pudge, because he's too terrified to expose his secret abilities in front of them. He manages to escape by faking a ridiculous Tai Chi routine. This episode is the one where I start realizing, okay, I get what you're kind of doing here.
Oh yeah, it was great. The first episode, he played it totally straight, totally to the genre. And
Yeah.
then episode 2 was when you know that the script just said, okay, Cage be Cage.
Yes, there was no script. It just said Nicolas Cage says ... And yeah, so I'm sitting there laughing about that. He hides under a bridge, but his office gets exposed, and so they just go up and kind of rough up Janet to send a message. And I like that he's affected by this. I like that the danger came to his door, and he wasn't just like, well, got to break a few eggs. Like, chances of this not happening were very little. But I like that he gets passionate about it. He seems to really honestly care about Janet, which is again,
Very much so.
could have fell into the trope of him not caring about Janet, a dame or whatever's going on in the 1930s. Driven by guilt over leaving Janet unprotected, Ben returns to his old apartment to pull his hidden costume out of the wall. And that was just ridiculous as well. He just like makes up a reason to barge into his old apartment, and then he just makes a big ass hole in it. The kind of limp-wristed husband getting chastised by the wife of like, say something, do something.
You don't think he was a plumber?
Yeah. So good. And again, like so ridiculous on the face of it. And again, with this newfound humor coming episode 2, I started really finding myself enjoying where they were going with all this. Ben plays dress up. While Ben plays dress up, Robbie conducts a parallel investigation in a local Hooverville. I was like, oh, that's a shanty town. I read about those. To find the family of a deceased veteran named Jimmy Addison, crossing paths with Lonnie Lincoln, played by Abraham Pula. That's basically our tombstone in this universe. I'm super glad that he was included. But armed with new intel, the Spider swings back into action to intercept a massive illegal Canadian liquor shipment that Silvermane is running under the cover of night. Ben dismantles the entire smuggling operation using highly creative environmental webbing, feeling the genuine thrill of being a hero again as he knocks out Harry and Pudge with a little bit of Tai Chi. Ben warned Silvermane directly to stay away from his investigative firm, but the victory is short lived when Robbie reveals a crooked tip off allowed the mob boss to walk away from the precinct completely. So the city's corrupt. Somebody's on the payroll for Silvermane. Ben is starting to feel it again, being the spider. But Robbie is also doing a lot of interesting and necessary detective work as a reporter in this.
He carries a lot of the actual main plot.
Yeah. Which again, like I sometimes shows like this fail to make those people interesting or fail to make them do anything that actually affects the plot. So I like how invested he is in this, and for the most part, it's mainly because of the truth. Like
Yeah.
besides, and not saying that he shouldn't care, but besides like the neighborhood kind of going to shit, like nothing's actually directly affecting him. But it should also be said that he is kind of angling to get his job back at the Bugle. I can't remember necessarily why they let him go. That part I can't remember.
Um, I don't remember if they said. I just assumed it was because he was a black man in the 30s.
Yeah, I think he gets some licks in this. I like that there really isn't like no big monologue, right? In this. I think if you know about history, you know. If you see how some people are looking at him and treating him, you know. And I think that that's good enough for the narrative to let you know exactly how things like that went
Right.
down back in the day.
Well, like the one hotel that he wanted to check out, the sign on the door said no blacks, so he had
Yeah.
to go get Ben.
When he goes and sits down in front of the all white news team and they kind of look at him and
Yes.
he's like, "Hey." And then even when he goes to like give the initial story to that boss, the secretary like rolls her eyes at him or whatever. I'm like, he's just walking in here, like, what's going on here? And then the whole idea. I mean, I want to just say that the whole idea of like, oh yeah, we'll take your story, we'll take your pictures, and we'll credit somebody else. Either take this money now or
Right.
have no money. Like,
Yeah.
what are
Yep.
you gonna do here?
We'll completely rewrite it, put somebody else's name on it.
Yeah, like that's been going on since the dawn of time. Um, The Silvermane thinks he has a leak in his little crew, so desperate to plug the leaks in his syndicate after the disrupted smuggling run, Silvermane turns right around and hires Ben to root out the traitor hiding in his own organization. Is it legal to hire a PI to figure out who's the rat in your criminal organization?
It's an interesting question. I don't know.
The idea of
I
him
would go
going to
with
like what
is
I
it
consider the cops to be like, hey, someone did me
I would
wrong.
go with, is it ethical in the PI manual to
Yes,
take jobs from both sides?
that is also true. Multiple people come
Because
to pay this
he's
man.
literally working for both sides at the same time.
Yeah, that's also super interesting. I like that up until the very end, Silvermane doesn't know Ben is a spider. So he just thinks he's a useful um PI, a useful tool to have in his useful contact to have. He's gonna nail down everything that he needs to get nailed down in regards to this rat here. Silvermane hands Ben a massive clue by bragging that only money tells the truth, allowing Ben to deduce that the mob boss secretly marks his cash with a distinct chemical marker for all of his capos. To check the money trail, Ben fakes a physical limp to go undercover as an injured officer. Watching him do that was really funny too, basically getting everyone to blame the next guy and then just walking in there. I almost took a screenshot to post of when he's like, damn it, man, don't you see you got shot in the ass or something like that? Like, what show am I watching? Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. So funny. Um, but again, I've always liked that. I don't even know what it's called. Social engineering, I believe it's called. How people just kind of play around with social norms in an attempt to get information out of people. Like Jessica Jones would just call up a place, give a fake name, and say, "Hey, I'm interested in a tour of this place," in an effort to be able to case it. Stuff like that. I really like when people are able to use fake aliases in seemingly a harmless way to end up getting information here. I think quite possibly the funniest part is when he basically fakes like shell shock when he gets found by one of the doctors or whatever. And he's just like repeating himself and scratching his head and going like, the doctor I was looking for is not here. Really, really good stuff. Uh, Robbie takes a powerful, meanwhile, Robbie takes powerful photos of Flint and Lonnie actively defending the Hooverville residents from a police bulldozer squad sent to clear the camp. That almost made them feel a little bit heroic in there. I started thinking like I want to see Standing Stone. Where's that? Where's that book or or TV show?
Which, I mean, I liked that because I mean, they weren't always bad guys. And when we get the backstory later, it was like they weren't always bad guys. And I mean, maybe Flint still was, but I mean, Lonnie really wasn't now either.
Yeah, and I think that's been almost a recurring thing I've been watching. I don't know if you saw at all my adventures with was it? No, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
And your favorite for those who haven't seen it, in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Ryan Lincoln is just a high school kid, and he gets roped into a gang, and basically, through a bunch of decisions, mistakes, whatever you want to call it, ends up leading it and just kind of finds himself in that after being a star quarterback, a helpful, student and brother and son, and just finds himself in this world. And I think that's a little bit more realistic when you talk about some of these other characters that have blood feuds against Spider-Man or are affected by an alien symbiote. The motivations can be a little bit fantastical, but I like that they have grounded these street level villains with relatable stories, because a lot of that stuff isn't just this like I want to take over the world stuff. It's like I got to survive. I'm out here in these streets and I got to figure out some way to not end up on the bottom here of this totem pole. So I
I will
did dig
take
that.
over the tri-state area.
There you go. Ben's undercover work pays off when he discovers that Mr. Cardi was just a paid actor, confirming that Cat is the actual rat, leaking Silvermane's secrets to the authorities. The discovery triggers a painful bathroom flashback of Ben's dead fiancée Ruby drowning out of his reach, blurred with her face and Cat's, fueling the desperate desire to save this new woman from a similar fate. I do think that she was, in a lot of ways, just an analog of his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're stuck right there in the middle. You know what intervention of Silvermane's operations does. It kills the people close to you. But you also know if you don't intervene, she might end up dead anyway because she's quite literally the rat in this situation. So it's really interesting to watch him navigate around this. But also really interesting when he starts letting other people in, like Robbie and Janet, to what's actually going on and how they perceive he should be moving in this. Because he can't help but fall back on his old habits of self-preservation. I can't necessarily blame him, especially given what's personally happened to him. But also, as I think Kat says, like, you try to say that you're not brave, but you almost had me fooled. Like, there is something real and true about you in this. What do you think about? I mean, no pun intended. But what do you think about Ben being in those shades of gray as opposed to being just a anti-hero or just a hero in this?
Well, so first of all, it's again completely accurate to the genre, and second of all, it's actually really accurate to early Spider-Man too, because I mean, young Peter Parker was really a selfish dick.
Yeah, if people forget that one of the big inciting incidents is him letting that guy go who robs the wrestling match or whatever, right? Like because it wasn't his problem. He came there for money. He didn't get paid his $300 or whatever it was in 1962, and the revenge was had. And when
I
you're a
mean, even
teenager,
after that, though, like he tries to join the Fantastic Four by showing up and attacking them.
yes, which was a big thing at
So
that
yeah, it
time,
was
just
yeah.
showing, testing your strength. Uh,
So it was very accurate to Spider-Man.
I dig it. What do you think about the organic webs in this? Black organic webs.
They were usually black. They weren't always black. That was weird.
Yeah,
They were not as dark towards the end.
I don't know if that's like how blood when blue blood rises to the oxygen, it changes color or something like that. Watching him,
I'm thinking at the beginning there was blood in his alcohol stream, and then he
there you
kept
go,
drinking more, and there you go.
there you go. When he's messing with it, the first time it's kind of coming out, that stuff was gnarly. Like him just kind of like
Yeah.
pulling at it and messing with the consistency. Um, Ben
I
breaks
mean,
into. Oh, go
again,
ahead.
it worked really well. I'm sorry.
No, you're
Again, it
good.
worked really well because the version of the origin they did, it was them being organic and being a little gnarly all fit.
Yes, and when we get to like the origin, it's an origin like something I've never. I if you would put a gun to my head and said, "How does Ben Riley get spider powers?" There's no way in hell I would have landed on what they do here. And
Oh yeah.
it's so ridiculous that I think it works. I think it's kind of genius, or at least hilarious. It tickles me very much. Um, Ben Riley breaks into Silvermane's penthouse safe to verify his theory using his spider senses, like a safe cracker, to feel out the combination and locate Winston's specially marked bills. Winston's crew catches Kat trying to flee New York with a suitcase of cash, dragging her and Ben out to a clearing in the woods surrounded by freshly dug graves. Just as an execution is about to happen, Ben pulls off a brilliant con by planting Winston's own marked bills on him, completely flipping the script and framing the capo as the traitor. So a furious Silvermane buys the fake evidence completely, shooting Winston dead on the spot before immediately aiming his gun at Winston's like close associate. But they did it in a way that may have suggested that he was going to kill Kat or uh, Ben in that instance. Um, I like that trope too of like we've got you cornered. We've got the guns on you. We've got the boys out here. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Kind of stuff. Did you find yourself falling for the whole Flint cat love story in this?
Bought into it more than I bought Ben and Kat's story.
That's very fair. I think that that is extremely fair.
I mean, it felt kind of one-sided. Like I never really saw too much care for her in Flint.
Yeah,
She very much in her own way because of again her shifting loyalties and everything. It seemed like she genuinely cared for him, but I never really got the equal feeling from him for her.
it really felt like he had his own demons that he was wrestling, and you can tell that the elongated effects of the experiments that they did on them, as we'll get into, really mess with his self-esteem and really mess with his and maybe even a little bit of his autonomy. Like, how can he live a normal life with this ailment, with this, with what's going on? And almost every time Kat isn't fawning for him, he goes into like a real big self-deprecation mode of like, yeah, I was just a goon. You know, I knew you would never love me like like anybody else. And you can tell that he's really affected by, and one could even say there's a little bit of spiral of sanity going on with him. If anyone's ever had chronic pain for any reason, like where that becomes a permanent part of your life, it kind of messes with the way you view things, think about things when you're in a constant state of pain. And you can tell that this whole transformation for him really, really has him believing that there's only one thing he can do that's useful, and that is work for this. But it's also like work for Silvermane or work for the dirty mayor. Like it's like it's not really there's not many job openings for these super powered individuals. So um Ben deals with Silvermane, who they have a couple drinks. Robbie takes a train to Harlem, um, and uses his local ties to safely interview Lonnie Lincoln about the syndicate's next move. I love that he's just talking to that dude that's just talking a mile a minute about. I think one point he says, "If there's no chicken in the salad, how is it chicken salad?" or something like that. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever."
You're writing
Um,
this down? Got it all up here.
yeah. I really also like the little street kid, the newspaper kid. I can't
Oh
remember his
yes.
name, but I thought that was a really good child actor. I thought he was really killing it in that role too. That's the weird thing is that this doesn't have a deep cast, but they put just enough different people to make the city feel lived in. To make it feel
Yes.
like this is a real place. Um, Ben eventually meets up with Kat at a local theater where she laments feeling like a captive doll in Silvermane's house, prompting Ben to finally confess the heavy truth about Ruby's death. He admits that Ruby's vengeful ex-husband drowned her while Ben was blocks away, blacked out drunk, revealing that his constant visions of her underwater are just a manifestation of this guilt. Um, but as they're dealing with this emotional moment, Silvermane deploys Flint to smash up the mayor's territory, forcing Ben to rush down to the Diamond District to investigate the chaos. Instead of Flint, Ben runs headfirst into Dirk Leiden, an eccentric, volatile Australian convict turned actor known as Megawatt, who possesses the terrifying ability to store and discharge raw energy. But his whole thing is he has like affinity for Broadway. Is it? uh, I forget his actual his, uh, but yeah. At first, I found myself. Yeah, I'm pronouncing it that name right. I was just making sure I was saying the last name right because I felt like they were saying Leiden a little bit. I'm saying Leiden. Um, but he's doing to me the accent the best. He's doing to me the whole the whole 30s accent. He's chewing up every scene that he's in.
Oh God, yes.
Absolutely demolishing it. I found him very compelling, and he is um like they do this in Batman, but this idea that you start off with the gangsters that are ruining the city, and then the villains just become more and more eccentric as a result of the hero kind of being theatrical. And I like this idea that those men might be the ones that he'll have to deal with because I by creating this whole prisoner of war experiment scenario, they've effectively have created a plot device that could ensure multiple seasons, right? Because you could just be like, that was just another person in the experiment.
Another guy there.
Yeah, just another guy there. But yeah, this guy's quoting Shakespeare. He's quoting Macbeth. He's doing all kinds of stuff. But like he's again, I cannot. If you have not seen him, I cannot say just how much he's just having an absolute blast in this role. It really, really so cool.
The world is just a stage. The whole world is a stage for him.
Yeah, at one point he literally says that like this, it's a fight between the Sandman and a Megawatt here. Um, he completely overpowers Ben by drawing power directly from the city's modern electrical grid, forcing the Spider to adapt quickly and tear down the overhead power lines to black out the block and drain the villain's battery. He retreats to his apartment to nurse his wounds and practice his natural fighting stance. But the quiet evening ends with an immediate cliffhanger when Cat Hardy arrives and plunges straight backwards out of his way. Ben leaves out to catch Cat, safely putting her back into the apartment before finally coming clean about the horrific origins of his superhero abilities. This is where we get this origin story. In World War One, France, he his military unit stumbled on a grotesque German laboratory experiment where soldiers were being injected with animal DNA. But not just animal DNA. Like it was funny because it was like mason jars. So
Oh yeah,
it would be like the person and there's like an octopus in a mason jar and he has octopus powers, or sand in a mason jar, or I guess eels, and all this
yeah.
kind of stuff. And as he is kind of going through and trying to figure this out, one of the experiments when he takes off the blanket is a man spider. A man that's half man, half spider. I believe he's like all spider from the waist down, which might
Yeah.
possibly be a fate worse than death. Kill me.
It was creepy looking as hell.
Yes. Spider-Man is famously bitten by a radioactive spider. Ben is bitten by radioactive Spider-Man. Man spider. When it happened, I was like, this is the most ridiculous but also like awesome thing ever. Because how do you even explain that to someone? I have spider like powers because a half spider, half man bit me. Um uh I gotta double check, but isn't Spider Ham's thing is like he is a I want to say he's a spider bitten by a radioactive pig or some kind of weird twist on what it actually is that like it's not. I don't think he was bitten by a radioactive spider. I think it's some kind of weird
No, I think
twist.
wasn't he bit by a radioactive human?
That there might be even that. I'm gonna find this out. But yeah, what do you think of this like very different origin for Ben Riley?
That was that whole episode was just crazy because, like, the first episode and a half, you're like hardcore noir, and then we start getting campier as we go.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden, you're in like one part war movie, one part Evil Dead.
Yes. Um, and it like a Rubik's cube. Sometimes it just looks plain on the face of it, like they're just doing comedy or they're just doing noir stuff. But then it swings into like these very deep moments, these very deep character moments. This being one of them, like the idea that all of these soldiers were being experimented on and as prisoners of war, and that's true to life. Like that's something that's actually happened when you think about stuff like the Tuskegee Airmen and stuff. Um,
Mhm.
so I like that they brought that real life phenomenon in this. It says Peter Porker was born a spider, um, and yet May bit him. Peter Porker was born a spider and resided in the basement lab of May Porker, a scientist who invented an atomic-powered hair dryer to revolutionize the hair care industry. After dousing her hair with water and activating the dryer, May accidentally irradiated herself and in a fit of delusion bit Peter, transforming him into an anthropomorphic pig. So yeah,
So their thoughts.
yeah, absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew. I felt like when they were doing the Spider Verse origins that I remembered that and being like, that's absolutely. Da, 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 da. Robbie digs into public records and discovers that Omega Watt's civilian day job is actually a city subway worker, using the scoop to force his biased Bugle reporter Howard Walters to run the front page story. Janet reviews Ben's stolen medical files and identifies the wartime experiments as primitive, failed super soldier initiative. Love that they brought that up. Talk about
Oh
like
yeah.
talk about like insanity being something you do over and over again, right? Like they got it right once with Steve Rogers, and for the next 100 years, people are still trying to
Uh-huh.
do the damn super soldier experiment, and everyone's coming out jacked up. Um, so they track the current remnants of the project to a Dr. Althea Faber at a local VA hospital. While Robbie distracts Dr. Faber with an interview, Ben goes undercover as a sick patient to snoop through her archives, completely unaware that Flint and Lonnie are currently breaking Megawatt out of police custody down the hall. I really like that whole scene where,
Oh, that was really cool. Yeah.
yeah, where he's like getting beat up and he's really playing tough. Like, I guess that's another part that I liked about it. He's absolutely insane. Like, not even in this he didn't become like a sniveling coward villain in this moment where he's
Oh
completely
no.
dead to rights, where he has no control in this matter. Um, I like when he's hey, I need your attention, and he's like, yeah, I'm like a field in Nebraska, all ears or something, and then Silvermane looks at him like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, I'm listening. I really thought that was funny. And then he like does a monologue and kisses the detective and shocks him to death. And Silvermane is
Silvermane's just that
yeah,
was weird.
he's all of us in that moment. Silvermane's like, but I also love that's not a deal breaker for him. Like he does this insane thing, and Silvermane's like, that was crazy. Anyway, here's your sign up papers. Um, but yeah, basically now that Megawatt is out and he's working alongside Ian Lincoln's Tombstone and Flint Marco Sandman, working for Silvermane, is basically obvious now that there's going to be a superpowered gang war that's going to tear New York City apart. Um, Morris and Silvermane are working on completely different sides, with Morris declaring the end of Prohibition. Do you want to tell do you want to tell the Zoomers, the Gen Z crowd, what Prohibition was, Frank?
No booze, people.
Yes. They had outlawed alcohol. I know about prohibition from The Simpsons. That's where I got all my prohibition knowledge from.
That's awesome.
Yeah, all my prohibition knowledge is from The Simpsons. So, yes, in an effort to stop the I guess overall maybe dangerous alcohol consumption going on in the country, I can't remember if it was statewide or countrywide. They banned the selling of alcohol, but as any sort of ban does, it just creates a vacuum for criminals, criminal organizations to sell this stuff under the table,
Oh yeah,
making themselves
prohibition was the best thing that could have happened to the mob.
100%. And now the mayor is threatening to end it, which is what the people want, right? The populace wants that. So obviously that's the thing that the person that's trying to stay mayor should do. But that goes in direct opposition of what how Silvermane's making all his bones. So not only did it threaten the money, but it straight up messed with the money when he raided his Canadian shipment of alcohol. So it is up to Silvermane, or this Silvermane has Mayor Morris in his crosshairs, and believes that that man needs to be taken down if he is to continue his criminal enterprise, and vice versa. The mayor's like, we need to take down Silvermane if I have any chance of not only staying alive but staying mayor. And in the middle of that, Cat Hardy and Flint Marco have a bit of a love story. I feel like
A little bit.
that's the general vibes of what's going on here. Um, Terrified for their safety, Ben offers to abandon the investigator life entirely and run away with Cat to the black sand beaches of Santorini. Um, what did you think about this conversation between Ben and Janet about him declaring his love for Cat?
Um, I mean, it's a trope of the genre, but I really thought he fell to the point of run away with her pretty quickly.
Yeah,
And Janet was, and I guess it's for out of just love for him, but she was a little too accepting compared to how she was about everything else.
yeah. I don't know if it feels like initially she's going to tell him this is crazy, this is kind of bad
Yes.
shit stuff. But it
Yeah.
almost like the desperation in his voice as he continues as to come up with reasons to justify why he should run away with this woman he met maybe a week ago, who he knows is romantically tied to other people he may not know to the extent, and whose involvement in his life has caused multiple near death experiences. He's trying to tell Janet, and the thing is, I've been on both sides of that. I've been the guy that's like, oh, you know that very toxic girlfriend that I said I dumped. We made up, and we're perfectly fine now, and we're gonna go live happily ever after. And friends are like, hey, they don't want to necessarily discourage me for fear that I just disappear, in thinking that, well, if you're not on my side, then you don't want me to be happy, kind of stuff. Which is how a lot of this stuff breaks down eventually. And I've also been the type to be like, to hear a friend be
Yeah,
like,
true.
I've been there to be to hear a friend be like, "Oh man, I broke up with my girlfriend," or we broke up and my heart is broken, and the next day being like, "I found the woman of my dreams." You will not believe, and I'm like, no, it's a little close. I want you to be happy. Don't get it twisted, but maybe tend to the wound a little bit before And the wound is deep. This wound was so deep that it stopped him from super heroics for as long as it did. I want to say like 2 years, and yeah, I guess love doesn't really make sense a lot of times, I guess, is what all I could write this off as. Is that just, or does it
Yeah.
just speak to the desperate nature that Ben has to connect? Because it feels like he cuts him short of saying, like, it's been so many years since I've been able to, you know, sounds like he's going to say, like, connect to somebody or felt love of somebody or felt this excited about life. Um, and so at what point is it a friend's great power, great responsibility to support or kind of tell them what's on your mind. Situations where people stop being friends with people if they say, "Hey, your partner's not great for you," or your husband, it's like not possibly not the person that you should want to be with. So I feel like she's walking that very thin line, especially when we've seen her call him out on his bullshit before.
Yeah.
So I guess in this instance, I kind of expected that as well. Here, but
And like
it's
you said, that's what it looked like we were going to get, but then instead we got more stereotypical. I'm very happy for you.
maybe it's because she can keep the office.
Maybe.
She's like, what about the office? Because he's like, he doesn't even know. He's like, I don't know, sell it or you could keep it. Like none of this seems well thought or well planned out. It's all just speaking out of emotion here.
Oh, not in the least.
Yeah. Um.
Well, and then, it kind of got me. And again, I guess, if he's not really thinking things through and he was kind of sleepwalking through life in a way, he's like, you'll be taken care of. So, they didn't have a working phone for the first half of the series
Yes.
because he didn't pay the bill.
Hmm.
He hadn't paid her in however long, but he had a big old wad of cash hidden in his dresser.
Yes. And also, we now know that throughout this unpredictable job where she's not getting paid every other month or whatever, he's also coming in drunk dressed as a spider and doing so maybe she's like, this is a very ill man. I love him to death in regards to what's going on here, but also I just don't know, maybe this is the right role for him. We got Alex Garcia in the chat saying Nick Cage killed it in the series, and yeah, things seem like it was made for him. And we got Erica Garcia saying this show is so much fun over on YouTube where we are currently live. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Um, and yeah, throughout all of this, literally when he's doing the interrogations at the VA kind of hospital thing, and he's doing the whole yeah, see, not don't you know, see, I'm like, bro, he's having a blast. He's having so much fun. Um, his whole like sort of origin, I'm not sure if I got to hear of, he gets bit by the guy and eventually figures out that he has spider powers and stuff. I think another interesting part about this is that according to him, he was becoming more spider like. And we see multiple instances of him doing like the dead cockroach
Oh, just oh yeah.
thing, which is really, really funny. Um, I kind of wonder how true this is. Like it seems insane that he was like slipping into being a spider and had to train himself to walk and talk more like a human. Like that's such a crazy part of this hero's background. What do you think of that humongous change? That he might be more spider than man and is actively training every day. At one point he tells Kat like, I still have like the spider like urges sometimes. I'm like, what does that mean? Finally eggs in her? What's going on, bro? Ridiculous. Yeah, what do you think
See,
about this major change here?
See, there's part of me that wonders if that was not in the original script, and when Cage just started being Cage, they had to throw it in,
Yeah,
and they threw in the bit about, well, I started watching movies to relearn how to move and talk like a person.
yeah,
Like they threw that in to explain away his affectations.
yeah. But the idea that also like if I didn't know English, it'd be very the media that I chose, to study, I think would be different than his. The idea that he only studied gangster films and stuff is terrific. We got Full Shizzle Joe number 1 saying great content, guys. Thank you, Joe, for watching. It's great. We're doing great content because this show is great in a lot of ways. I'm having a lot of fun talking about it because it is so unique and it's unapologetic. I'm real big on like don't if you're gonna like commit to the bit, right? Okay, so he's got bit by this man spider, and now he has half spider DNA in him, and he's like stay ridiculous. If this is the kind of stuff that you want to do, if this is the kind of stuff that you're playing with, I like that they never pull back. There's never any apologies for it. There's
No,
never any
never.
sort of
It's
like
just start to finish, you know what you're getting. It's not, oh no, wait, that was too much. We're gonna pull it back.
yeah.
Like, no,
And
we're
I
gonna lean into it, damn it.
and the thing is, they give him immaculate straight men, right? So that they can be out the audience surrogate of like, what the hell is going on? What are you doing? Kind of stuff. So it really evens out the very wild protagonist that we have here. Cat's down to run for run away with Ben, but then she realizes that she speaks to the doctor, Dr. Faber. Dr. Faber is working on a cure for all the people that were experimented on, that she was a part of those experimentations. But she believes, and this goes back to, I want to say both Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man, like Amazing Spider-Man, they're always going after the spider blood. People all
Oh
want
yeah.
people always want Spider-Man's blood because they think of it has some sort of healing capabilities to it.
Well,
Um,
there's no Steve Rogers in those worlds, so you can't go after the super soldier serum.
yeah, yeah. But in an effort to save Flint Marco, who, as we already said, is kind of being eaten alive by this sort of transformation into sand, um, she flips on Ben here. Do you blame her at all?
No, because I mean, I did actually believe that she had feelings for Flint more than I ever believed her having them for Ben.
Also just met Ben, which I think
Yeah.
a lot of people need to remember. They just
Yeah,
met,
like you said,
and
it's been a couple of days.
she is definitely a means to an end. For uh, she's definitely. I mean, he's definitely a means to an end for Cat, and that happens with a
Yes.
lot of these stories. My favorite being Double Indemnity, where they get that car life insurance guy to try to kill this lady's husband or whatever's going
Oh,
on at the
yeah.
time. It's like your life, what happens to you after this, none of that really matters to me so long as I get what I want out of this. Um, Ben
I,
attempts.
I do kind of
Okay,
have a sorry, I do kind of have a Flint question. I'm going to just throw in at this point because I was thinking it earlier.
sure.
So at this point, she tells the doctor that Ben's the spider, and screws him because she wants to help Flint.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe I missed it somewhere along the way. Did they say that when Flint kind of goes full Sandman, he doesn't remember stuff afterwards?
I believe it's
Because
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, because it really bothered me as the series went on that he never remembered the fact that when he fought Ben on top of the under construction skyscraper, that he threw him off of it,
Yeah,
and
because
then
that
there he
wasn't he
was
wasn't the
right back up
spider,
there.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, it was just he's just Ben. So
Hmm.
he throws him off of it, and then the next thing you know, Ben's right back up there, smacking him in the head with steel girders.
Yes, yes.
And for her to appear to break them up as quickly as they did, wouldn't she have had to have already been on the lift?
Right. I think that that's
So I feel
true.
like there was some selective amnesia because of the way they staged that first episode.
There's a lot of, hey, you look familiar. Oh, I think I know you from somewhere. And I was like, that it wasn't that long ago. One of my favorite gags in this is later on when Ronnie does his best Ben when he's trying to pretend
Oh,
to be
yes.
to be Ben Riley. Uh so like I love that Ben is so eccentric that people can't get a beat on him and remember like that's who it is until he leaves the room. That seems to be the power. As soon as he leaves the room, someone goes, "That was Ben Riley. That was the guy from the VI hospital, or the guy I fought on top of the building, or that private investigator." Um, so yeah, really really funny stuff. Ben attempts to track Kat's leads, but instead runs into Ogden, an incredibly withered veteran from his old wartime unit, who reveals his mutation is rapidly aging him to death. It is also revealed that Ogden is the son, Dr. Faber. So she is going through to great lengths to come up with an antidote to fix his whole. The Benjamin Button, is that what that movie is? No, Benjamin Button is in reverse.
Eventually, that button ages backwards.
Yeah, he ages backwards. That's like
Yeah.
the Vulture, right? Didn't the Vulture like take
Yes. Yeah.
something that it like
Or actually, it's kind of Comics Silvermane because Comics Silvermane is continually getting older, and he wants the tablet of life to get younger.
okay. Samsung or Apple tablet? I'm tablet is this man looking for? iPads are
Wow,
expensive, bro. At tariffs. Um, during
that
the
was terrible.
yeah, during the conversation, I feel like it's just the right comedy for this show. During the conversation, Ogden confirms that Ben legally changed his name to Ben Riley after the war to bury his true identity. Bum bum bum. Maybe Peter Parker. Ogden suddenly sedates Ben and straps him to a medical gurney. The random shots of people just stabbing full syringes into each other in this show was bugging me the hell out. I'm somebody who donates plasma, and that's still a thing of like looking away. I don't necessarily want to see it, but in this show, they are constantly jabbing each other in the neck, in the arm, on top of the hand with these syringes, and it's fucking like it's bonkers. They don't shy away from them at all. But yeah, just literally sedates him by injecting it right on top of his palm. Um, he hands him over to Dr. Faber, who realizes Ben's chronic alcoholism is the only thing that kept his spider mutation stable by filtering out the volatile toxin. So drinking saves people. Maybe this was an anti-prohibition show. Maybe that's what this entire thing was built up to be.
To
An anti-prohibition show.
you by the estate of Al Capone.
Yeah, that shit just came up on the screen, like on the ticker on the bottom. Injected with massive doses of experimental sedatives, Ben slips into a terrifying psychological nightmare where his mask morphs into a live tarantula and the ghosts of his past failures haunt him for being a coward. I thought that was very well done, very
It
creative.
was.
Um, Getting yelled at by Spider-Noir in a lot of cases, seeing his Ruby, what I'll refer to her as. But it just leads us to remember just how fractured Ben is as a person. He is the soldier that he was trained to be. He is the private investigator that he wants to be. He's the spider that he's forced to be, and doesn't really know where he comes down on any of those things in particular. In an effort to live a regular life, which of those lives is he supposed to live? And as a veteran, somebody who went overseas twice, watching there's some levels of PTSD in this with him. You know,
Oh, for sure.
the alcoholism is a huge sign that he can't get past the traumas of his day. And back in the day, that was just par for the course, right? Like you didn't think of alcoholism in the same way we think of alcoholism now. That was just the solve of whatever you were
Right.
dealing with at the time. You know, like, oh, dad always drinks. Well, what's going on with that? Have you asked dad what's going on? You
Right.
know what he's thinking? It was always just like, oh yeah, the guys go to the bar and drink. Um, so yeah, he's desperately and deeply going through stuff, and this sort of dream sequence really highlights just all the horrors in his mind constantly trying to smother, as the saying goes, drown his demons. Alcohol. Uh, Doctor.
This was the part that absolutely sold me on the idea that he was Peter Parker and change. I mean, they even they say he changed his name, but this is what sold me on. He was Peter Parker
Yeah,
and changed his name to Ben Riley because it was just all these things that Peter Parker has no idea. He's not equipped to handle.
yeah, yeah,
That this is he becomes somebody else to how do I want to put it? So like you made the comment earlier that supposedly there's like the Bible for what they're allowed to do with him. So you look at those as the core traits of Peter Parker. If he's self-aware enough to go, you know I need to do something different to handle all this stuff I've been through, and I can't. So I need to be somebody else.
yeah. And
I mean, this
and
sold me on that idea.
not and that's so true. There's almost very little of him in him, if that makes a lot of sense. He's playing a lot of different people for the people around him, and then when he's by himself, he's
Right.
drinking himself. Sleep for them. Um,
Like once or twice he even says, I could just be, when he's talking about, if I didn't have my powers, I'd just be Ben Riley. And the way he says it, it's like I have no freaking clue who Ben Riley is.
100%. Yeah. I even like later on when Robbie's like, if you're gonna be that guy that you've been for the last 2 years, I don't think I want to be around for that. That was some real
Right.
like friendship, like real come to Jesus sort of
To
conversation.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Dr. Faber successfully extracts the genetic serum from Ben's liver tissue to cure her son Ogden, but the medical breakthrough is instantly cut short when Silvermane's strike team invades the lab. Ben and Ogden try to evade them by clinging to the elevator ceiling. A single drop of Ben's blood falls onto the newspaper below, alerting a bloodthirsty megawatt to their presence. The entire rescue mission devolves into pure horror when the veterans discover Faber has been keeping the mutated corpses of their old military friends in cold storage. What was your beat on this doctor? She, like, I felt like wavered between mad scientist and like lady just trying to do her job, but I think eventually like died in the mad scientist side of
Oh
the
yeah.
of it all.
Yeah. It was like, okay, so, best of intentions trying to help your son, but how quickly she devolved into Mengele.
Yes, I like the I like when she had Ben sedated and he was like, "I want raviolis" or whatever. She's like, "You'll get all the raviolis you want." Again, like who puts that in the script? Like, what's going on here?
Like,
That's
I mean,
only for
it was
Cage.
clear she was so far gone that, her son that she was trying to help was like, yeah, mom's nuts.
Yeah, and but you also go like, okay, lady helping veterans who were experimented on. Like, I can see they make it a point to say like the doctor's trying really hard. She's trying to cure us to help us. It's not her fault necessarily. And then you look and you see that she's kept subjects that have died. But I also think that's meant to be a foreshadowing of like what will happen if we can't get these guys that are still alive, Tombstone, Megawatt, and Sandman, if we can't control their mutations, they'll end up the same. Um, I wonder if any of this is intentional because rumor has it, Peter's mutation was getting quite out of whack in Spider-Man Brand New Day. I don't know if this is like upfront, sort of TED talk. Hey, this is what happens when the mutations get kind of crazy, so that we're a little bit more informed when we get into that. But it's interesting that they both are tackling that in calendar year part. Losing all control, Megawatt unleashes a massive electrical torrent that accidentally kills both Faber and Ogden, and then they set the facility ablaze. I'm pretty sure he did that on purpose, though. I think
Yeah,
that was
no accident.
yeah. I'm pretty sure he does like a whole villain monologue right before. But there's even some reverence. Like there's some like brothers in arms, sort of quiet. I don't even know what the emotion would be, but you can tell that he was honestly bothered by seeing some of his brothers in arms in these tanks here. I don't know what that means when a
Right.
maniac cares, right? I don't know. I don't know if we should. I don't know if that necessarily makes him a good guy because he has empathy, but it was odd seeing empathy from him because before then, and effectively, he is very much a mustache twirling villain, cackling in the background, doing show tunes whenever he gets a chance. Um, and yeah. Also, I forgot to mention the ridiculous moment where when Ben is talking to Janet about running away with Cat, he just starts singing a song about eating cheesecake. Like the classic, like I'm in love, I'm walking on sunshine, like quite literally, like nothing, raindrops are falling on my head, kind of moment there where she's like, I don't even know you sang, like what are you doing? Really, really funny.
She did know he sang. We find out later.
Yes, because it's not the first time that he's done it. But she's very good at, you know, they say old couples tell the same stories over and over again, and you never say, "Hey, hon, you told that story again." You just kind of sit there and go, "Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's what happened." It feels like that's the kind of relationship that they have here. He's like, I have to go to the bus stop." And she's like, "Okay, you're gonna be the spider? Like that's what's going on? Like you're just gonna be the spider?" That's really funny. Um, Ben manages to escape with the remaining antidote syringes. We kind of have an idea of how this third act is going to evolve. Ben has the antidotes to the Silvermane's goons, who all have these superpowers. All veterans experimented on, but you could already tell like the Lonnie Lincoln and they are not as down with this whole like mass murder, mass chaos campaign that Megawatt is. So you know, and you also know that Cat Hardy has invested interest in Flint being cured. So hopefully the ends justify the means, and we're about to get into all that now. With the Super Soldier lab reduced to ashes, Silvermane launches an all-out war against Mayor Morris, deploying his remaining muscle to rob campaign headquarters and fund a puppet candidate. A heavily depressed Ben hits the local bar to drink away Cat's betrayal, but when some of the uh, sorry, Jessica Roberts is in the chat and said that Alex brought his whole family. We got a bunch of new people in here talking it up, and also we have Nicholas who says he's stoked to see Max Payne Spider-Man, and it's a little bit of that in here. I wish we had more. The way they could have upped this ridiculousness, I wanted more inner monologue, a little bit more inner monologue in it, and that like sort of taxi driver music, that like the saxophone kind of stuff. Um, yeah, because like you said, I think they try to find a way to do both in similar ways of doing like the black and white and the color. They try to find a way to, but I say again, stick to your guns completely. If this is what this is, then make it a little bit more period accurate with the music and stuff. But
Yeah, the music was definitely too modern.
yeah. Uh, um, yeah.
But I have to say
So
the bar fight
yeah, but let's
probably
talk
the
about the scene
best fight
before
scene
it.
of the whole series.
100%. But to me, how harrowing was the scene that comes up before it of him like
Oh yeah.
completely drunk, hearing people talk about the spider. He's freaking gone, and he just came back, but maybe he just came back for a photo op. or whatever. Like they make it seem like he's a trash hero and he's only looking out for himself. I mean, and on the outside looking in, that's kind of how it looks, and that's kind of how he wanted it to
Ye-
look for a while. But you could
Yeah,
tell
so
it,
Ben kind of gets his own little drunken come to Jesus moment from some drunken assholes right next to him.
yeah. But the I know it's like played as ridiculous, but him yelling like he's a regular person that hurts and gets sad and gets tired, like that felt like something he's been waiting to say out loud, maybe even to himself, for a very long time.
Uh-huh.
This idea that while the symbol of the spider may be impenetrable, there's a real man under there, and there are real consequences to every time he goes out and he does something. It's real easy to sit back and armchair book, you know, what a superhero should do and what they shouldn't do. He's lost because of trying to help other people not lose. And he's arguing almost with his own conscience in that moment, you know, or anybody who tells him that he should suit up for the greater good, or anybody who tells him that he should sacrifice what's going on in his personal life to save others. In that moment, he's like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. But yeah, watching this like 90-second long take where he's so drunk that it impedes his ability to take people down, but he just comes up with like more creative ways to do it, and then his little celebration afterwards, like him being like, "Yeah, I got it," and taking the beers on the house and all that kind of stuff. Um, we basically get a noir drunken master kind of a scene here. And I liked it. I liked it very much. He's very good at playing fake drunk, but also he's very good at playing fake crazy, or maybe he's just good at playing crazy because he is crazy.
I say maybe it's not fake.
Yes, yes. That was just them rolling the camera during break.
Say, all
Like,
right,
hey,
Nick,
talk
we're
shit
taking
about the
5,
spider.
but you got
Yeah,
to keep your costume on.
talk shit about the spider next to Nick Cage. And it's just a bunch of guys talking shit, and he's like, "Don't you get it? He feels pain. He hurts too." Um. Uh. Yeah, and I love that he comes in stumbling, trying to cover up that he's not the spider, and Janet's like, "Come on, I know you're a spider." And again, the flashbacks are hilarious of him drunk
Oh, those
sitting
were the
Indian
best.
style with the typewriter. The
Typewriter.
spider's busy, Janet. The spider's busy. But the first time she's like legitimately shocked. He's like, "I'm the spider." Hey, Janet,
Oopsie poopsie.
I'm the spider. Ridiculous. But she's known for years, and she just felt like it was the best part of their friendship to keep it secret. Do you think that's something you could have done? Would have been worth it to just not tell him that you knew?
I'm pretty terrible at keeping secrets.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, in terms of this, I do like it's actually because of kind of the relationship, the bond that him and Janet have, that's almost like a play on when in what was it the 80s they came out and said, oh yeah, Mary Jane's known that he was Spider-Man since they were kids, since they were teenagers,
Yeah.
because she lived next door and saw him go out the window.
Yes, that
So
makes a lot of sense.
so it was like it was a play. It was kind of, to me, it was a play on that. Here's his like closest confidant as Ben Riley, and oh yeah, she knows about the other side of him too, which has made her a little more understanding about some of his eccentricities.
Yeah, and I find that the superhero media I tend to enjoy the most, they end up crossing that bridge pretty early because I am like exhausted over the whole "I have to lie to you" trope. And then they find out the truth, and it's always a big dramatic, "You should have told me you've been this person this whole time," and I get that we get none of that here. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who need to know about the spider know about the spider, the people who don't, and that's fine. It doesn't become a big dramatic thing. It doesn't become like, "Oh, I trusted you and you didn't tell me." It almost lends more credibility to Janet that she was able to figure this out than her being oblivious to it. It makes her look smarter in the eyes of the viewers that she was able to suss this out, because you even got guys like Silvermane who don't know. That's a lot of why the third act works out the way that it does, because the guy who has control over this entire town still doesn't know what this is. But Janet figured it out. So
Well,
no.
and they say 4 or 5 different times that she's actually a better PI than Ben.
Yes, yes. And she gets she gets what she deserves at the end of this too, which I was really happy about. Um reinvigorated by his secretary's loyalty because she knows, he like she stood 10 toes down, didn't tell nobody about the spider, and didn't rat him out. He splits the recovered serum into individual syringes, teaming up with Robbie to hunt down and depower Lonnie because Robbie's like, I think I can get close to him. Lonnie's hardened skin proves completely bulletproof, so it forces Robbie to make a desperate move and jab the syringe directly into his eye. Remember when I was talking about syringes just doing all kinds of willy-nilly wild stuff in this?
I don't do needles. I don't do things with eyes. So that combination, I was like,
Right in his eye. I could also be mistaken. Did you watch Luke Cage at all?
I watched the first season. I never watched the later one.
I believe it's in the first season where something happens to him and they bring the night nurse over and they can't get in him. So they have to go through his eye. They have to
Yeah.
do something through his eye or whatever like that. That's what this called back to me of trying to find a soft spot to do something with. I also don't know necessarily why Lonnie had to have like those protrusions, like the weird lizard sort of protrusions. His regular
I
tombstone
think that was
doesn't.
a concession to the black and white.
Fair, fair. That makes a lot of sense because I felt like it was more lizard than
Yeah.
tombstoney.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think that was that was a concession to the black and white. So there was just some sort of visual indication with him.
yeah, because we'll literally get a before and after in a couple moments here. Um, Although he loses his superhero durability and gets cornered by corrupt police, a fully human Lonnie bravely fights to protect Robbie and Ben anyway, proving that a true hero holds on to responsibility even when the power is gone. Lenny leaves town for safety, leaving behind an ominous split screen layout. I really dug this, where you see Ben like laid out, and you see both the mayor and Silvermane find the left behind syringes, and they both say the same thing: "You need to get Ben Riley." And this goes back
Yes.
to what you were talking about, like how is he gonna be? It's the two dates, right? He
Oh,
has two dates, and he got in the sitcom and has to find a way to get to both. Uh, so as the final gang war peaks in the streets, Flint warns an increasingly volatile Megawatt that a massive crash is coming. Completely unaware that Megawatt is already planning to assassinate Silvermane and take the throne for himself. Ben walks straight into Silvermane's executive office wearing one of Robbie's bright salmon colored civilian suits, prompting an intense standoff where Megawatt recognizes him from their past street encounter. Um, Silvermane holds Cat Hardy at gunpoint to force Ben to call the Spider. But Cat just breaks down and confesses that she only allied with the mob boss to find a clean opportunity to execute him to protect Flint. And this is also when she admits that she was in love with Flint the whole time, which is something that Silvermane seemingly knew, right? He says, "I wanted to hear it straight from you. Like,
yeah.
I need to hear you say,
And like we said, he doesn't miss much under his roof. So
yeah." Um, just as Silvermane prepares to pull the trigger, the office door flies open to reveal Robbie Robertson, who's donned Ben's spider suit, buy them some time because there's a moment early on that I skipped where they call the spider. He's like Ben Wright's like, "Hey, I can get you on the phone with the spider," and it's Robbie doing his best. Yeah, see, and using like big words that he doesn't need to use that pulp heroes would use. I found that very funny, and it's also one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you hang out with people enough, you can kind of do a shitty impression of them. He's a very particular person to do an impression of. So watching Robbie do that was very
it's
and I
fitting for a newspaper man to use a $5 word when a $2 word would do.
100%. And also like this takes immense bravery for a side character, a supporting character. Like this takes a lot of bravery from Robbie, and he has to 100% believe in what he's doing to do this because he ends up almost dead to rights almost instantly once he walks into this sort of mob meeting. Um uh sorry, Megawatt immediately ambushes and stabs the suited Robbie with an antidote syringe, but as the villain unmasks him in total confusion, Ben's organic webbing suddenly returns at the perfect emotional moment. I don't necessarily know why it wasn't working initially. Is that just like plot convenience stuff? Because I know he was like trying to get it to come out. Which also, how does that look
Um,
to everyone else in the room when he's like, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it wasn't very subtle.
No, not at all.
Well, didn't they say something about it was because he was still recovering from getting chopped up and then getting his ass beat by Tombstone,
Yeah.
that he needed to recover, because like when he was sleeping at Robbie's, he was, doing the praying mantis pose in his
Yes.
sleep and everything.
I love that whole,
So it
hey,
was kind of like it was sort of like he had to recharge, I guess.
that makes sense. Get all his fluids back, get all his levels back to where they got to be. I love the moment where he
Right.
says, well, like he said, he wakes up at Robbie's, and Robbie's like, "Hey, bro, we're not doing nothing right now. You need a rest." And he goes, "No, I need a rest." He falls asleep. Again, really, really good stuff. Um, but yeah, he's webbing people. A massive shootout erupts throughout the building, allowing Ben to reclaim his suit from Robbie and drag the superpower final battle out into the public streets. Both in this fight and in the fight initially with Megawatt, like I'm used to civilians like running away, like running away as far as possible, but I forget that these people don't have much entertainment in the 1930s. They're all sober and grumpy, working shifts at the factory, and they just want to see a good old fashioned punch them up. So at both of these instances where these superpowered villains are fighting people, they just circle and they're like cheering and stuff like that, which is something you don't I haven't seen since like the first Fantastic Four, the one that actually came out in theaters, where the whole city's kind of just
Okay.
watching them go at it with Doom. Um,
Well, it's kind of like the 30s version of what my buddies and me call the usual analogy, that if there is a car crash,
yeah.
you have to stop and look at it.
Oh, of course. Yeah. 100%. And again, these people
And
don't know what the
so
hell is going
like
on.
like you said before, right? But these guys all look like men. They're
Yeah,
they're doing weird shit, but they all look like men. So it's not like they look like monsters. So, oh, what's going on? Deer in headlights. I gotta look.
yeah, and this could just be a big performance piece. Like they don't know what is, like what is going into any of this. They don't. Why would they believe just off the rip what they see that there's a bunch of superpowered people just doing superpowered stuff? Like it could just be some weird theatrics. It could just
Well, and
be,
funny enough,
yeah.
the last fight was in front of a theater.
Yeah, yes, 100%. And Megawatt is eating it up. He's loving this whole idea and performance. We get the classic Spider-Man pulling between two objects. That that's seemingly always
That's
something that Spider-Man has to do. He takes two cars and smashes Flint, who just becomes a whole big wad of sand. I thought that was really funny. Um, Cat gets to corner Silvermane, who like what a jerk, the things he was telling her about like owning her and all that. She liked to be owned, she liked to be on a leash, all that kind of stuff that he was telling her. All just mob boss stuff to and toxic relationship stuff to keep her under his thumb. Um, were you surprised that she just kind of got him? She just shot him.
Yeah, that was well, okay. So we talked about this when we did the Punisher one. I'm the person that sits there and goes, "I'm sorry, how many bullets did you fire from that gun?"
Yes. Yeah.
She was unloading like there was no tomorrow from
Yeah.
that thing. So
In that
first of all,
hall of
there should not
mirrors.
have been any bullets left in there to plug him.
Yes.
So on that alone, I was like, well, I didn't see that coming.
They made it a point to show that he brandished a weapon and then he just got
Oh,
shot. Like they make it a point to
yep.
like show you he has some sort of weapon. But as we were talking about with other villains, it's just hubris. I guess at this point, this idea that um he didn't think she could ever do it, or maybe he incorrectly counted the bullets and was like, ain't got nothing to worry about. And then, ugh. But he does die saying he was happy that she's the one who did it. You know. Um.
So if I ever end up in a movie shootout, it's going to be the counting the bullets that does me in.
Yeah. Right. Damn it. Uh. Back on the streets, Megawatt completely loses his mind. He's got this whole big god complex going on. And like I said, he had sussed out because Silvermane had antidotes on him that they were going to, possibly kill him, Bonnie, like use them for what they needed to be used for, depower them, and then kind of get rid of them if they ended up being
Suicide.
inconvenient,
Yep.
especially Megawatt, who is too wild to keep under the thumb of somebody like Silvermane. He would have used them to his end, there was already a lot of dissent. You could see that he was already sowing Megawatt throughout all this. And to be fair, he was never really on the crew. They got him out of jail, right? So,
Right.
you know, whatever thin amount of loyalty that ends up fostering. Um, Flint, he confronts Flint to fight Flint, and I'm like, all of my years of Pokemon tell me that electricity and Earth don't mix. Like, if you have a lightning Pokemon, he cannot hurt a rock Pokemon. But this is a sand Pokemon, I guess. So I like the physics of him turning to glass and shattering the arm. But then I'm also like, A, does it hurt? And B, should I be concerned? Can he just make another arm out of sand? Which he does, I believe, right? He has both his hands later on.
So yeah.
Yeah. But I did like the effects. I did like watching him. I liked the idea that almost like an old school car that you have to wind up in the front that Megawatt has to charge. I like that he didn't just have it, just have electricity. When he kills the detective, he like smashes a light bulb in his hand and then
Yes.
charges up that way. So I do like that idea. I like the cool little like electric kind of scars on his face that light up when he is feeling powerful. And again, his
That's a very
weird,
cool visual.
yeah, and his weird sort of monologues. His weird, very dramatic, melodramatic monologues. But this is the era to do it, so like it's completely working for me. And I also like that we get the classic ripped Spider-Man mask moment where Ben has like the ripped open spider, and they all got to get it. It's an iconic visual of a Spider-Man, basically on the ground, almost dead to rights with a ripped mask, and how is he going to overcome? Um, yeah, the gathering crowd mistakes the massive electrical explosions for a theatrical fireworks display and erupts into applause, which kind of gives Megawatts the moment that he wanted a little bit. This whole like theatrical moment here, but uh, he's about to kill Cat, I believe. Megawatt. Flynn
Yeah.
has Cat in his arms. Oh, he did like a little zap to Cat. He like a little
Oh
zap her, and
yeah.
then she
Yeah.
like, I thought she was dead. I don't think it takes much electricity to kill somebody if a potent enough amount of it. But yeah, he shocks Cat. Cat falls down. Clint has her in his hands, and he looks like he's gonna have the final moment here at murdering both of them and getting his big sort of bow exit stage left kind of stuff. But the spider gets up finally, whips him from behind, and then throws him in front of a train, which I
That was
loved.
so abrupt.
Yeah,
It's so cool.
which I loved because at first I'm like, where are they flinging him to? Because you don't hear a train, and the train
Right.
just comes out of nowhere. And again, as a New Yorker, I love my elevated trains, so I just love that one made a cameo in this. Like in the Doctor Octopus fight. There's gotta be
Yeah.
those elevated trains. Um, with the city saved, Ben hands Cat the final antidote to restore Flint's humanity, and the two kind of share a quiet nod at Silvermane's empty funeral before she leaves New York behind. The series wraps up with Robbie leaving to the Bugle to launch his own independent newspaper, the Harlem Herald, while Ben officially changes the office door plaque to read Riley and Ruiz Private Investigate. Um, Ben then whips his fedora back onto his head, and he's fully prepared to face a brand new era with Silvermane. I thought this series definitely ramped up. It is kind of interesting how toned down the first episode was in comparison to where we got to the end. But
Oh yeah.
I kind of like the bait and switch a little bit. I think that's kind of a thing that's happening in movies right now. The subversive nature of almost selling like a rom com, then getting into it and realizing it's a horror or something like that. Like this whole nature of tricking you with the sort of mechanics of a genre stuff. So I there's not a lot of comedy in noir stuff, except for that
No,
little guy
usually not.
there was that short guy that used to be in a bunch of them who used to talk like 500 miles an hour, and he was really good at some comedy. Um, But yeah, there's not a ton of it. A lot of them end kind of dour. A lot of them end, without love or without getting the gal or the person literally bleeding out doing a confession, like in Double Indemnity. But it wasn't about getting the girl. It was about him finding out whether or not he can still be a hero, whether or not he's the heroics is still worth the damn. He's figured those things out. He's got great people by his side with his Robbie and Janet. I love that. Kat and Flynn are gonna be living their own lives wherever they go. But I found the down to earth. I love street level Marvel. That's a lot of what I read. I think that's where the kind of where the publisher sings, like where you think about like Punisher and Daredevil and Moon Knight, like those stories really really stick to me. And when Spider-Man is more street level, I love his entire Rogues gallery. So this show was already gonna get points to me being a Spider-Man fan. Like it already got more points grandfathered in when I started this. But also then I am looking at certain things and wondering how I feel about these big massive changes, like getting bit by a man spider kind of stuff. But once I realized that this thing had its own identity and was off of the beaten path and was this just became a joy to watch. It became a joy to watch people that I perceived having fun making this. Uh, that forced through the screen, like the
Oh yeah,
enthusiasm that everyone had on this project, especially Nick Cage, who again, this is his first TV project in all the years of his acting. This is his first starring television show role. And I think he knocks it out of the park. There's a bit of my mind that makes me think like this could have been anything and didn't necessarily have to be a Spider-Man project. Like this, like if they had the balls, this just would have just been a noir sort of thing. I'm getting sort of like Green Hornet vibes at times. I'm getting sort of like those kind of pulpy detective hero vibes. Like it didn't have to be Spider-Man, but as a Spider-Man fan, I don't necessarily mind it. I guess I'll say. But when all said and done and the smoke clears in this noir universe, what did you feel about the finale? I know a lot of these shows, especially comic book shows, ramp up really, really fast and are not able to um, make the climax as important, or you know, tying up all those loose ends can be very, very rough sometimes, especially when you're tasked with teasing 20, 50 other things that's supposed to come into the future. How do you think they wrap
right.
this up?
For this, I absolutely think they stuck the landing. One of the things that this is going to be funny given some of the stuff we talked about, but I kind of admire their restraint in that they had a story they wanted to tell. Here's our start point, here's our end point. And, the very nature of any medium, it's always, unless they're dead at the end, there's always the possibility of more stories.
Yeah,
But we are telling this story from beginning to end. And that is what we are telling. We are not setting up for a sequel or 17 spin-offs. It is just this is what we are doing. This is the story we want to tell. This is how we're going to tell it. And I thought that they absolutely nailed it. And that was frankly, especially from something that's tied to a Marvel property. I know this is Sony, not Marvel Studios,
yeah,
but that's refreshing because everything has to be, we have to build a universe. Even Sony, we have to build the Spider-Man villain universe, and we have to, lead into the next 37 things. And this
yeah,
was just boom. And there were no mid or post credit scenes. Loved that.
yeah,
So over
yeah.
credit scenes.
I don't mind credit scenes, but the ones we've gotten in the last 5 years going absolutely nowhere is maddening. It's so crazy to leave so many plot points in the wind and then have people get excited when they see a new one. Right? Have people, oh, it's so and so's mask on the ground. Oh, it's so and so's weapon. Who could that be? Oh, like, um, Sony is incredibly guilty for this. Like those Venom movies, like literally
Oh
jumped
yeah.
whole parts of the lore to get to the next thing that they thought was cool. Or even hints to a bigger future later on. Morbius hints, like Morbius meets with Vulture at the end of that movie somehow, some way, and they're like, "We're gonna get Spider-Man or whatever," and it's like, can you just tell a good story from beginning to end, and then ask the audience if they want more of this? But you already insisting that this is going to go on for 5 years is going to cause you to tell all these incomplete stories and then just tell the audience, well, you haven't seen the whole thing yet, so you can't make up your mind. And it's like, no, back in the day, you used to just be able to tell a good story. And if you couldn't, you didn't get a sequel. There was no guarantees on any of this stuff. You had to get it right the first time. Now you hear so and so signed on to a 3 film project, you know? It's like, oh, they're gonna make these sequels regardless if anyone cares or not. And then you almost always when that happens, you get diminishing return.
People
So
forget that Star Wars was literally one movie.
yeah,
It
it
was
was
not
Star
episode
Wars.
4, it
Yeah,
wasn't, it was Star Wars.
yes,
And, and there is an ending. There is, the bad guys are still out there, all that kind of stuff, but there was an ending and there was no guarantee it was going to continue.
yeah. I found myself when they teamed up with Tombstone and they're driving around, I had the thought in my head, I would really like to be a part of, like, see more of this world and like the little noir twist they could do on because in Marvel, you don't have to have like a random neighbor or a random mailman. You know, you can have
Right.
that dude that Stan Lee played. I forget his name now. I used to fucking know it. You
Willie
know what I'm talking
Lumpkin.
about? Willie Lumpkins. Yes, yes. You can have Willie Lumpkins, and if you're gonna have a newspaper, have it be the Bugle. Why not, right? And so I would really like to see how they color the rest of this universe if it's something they go back to. But again, even if it's not, I love Werewolf by Night, and they've yet to do anything tying that to
Right.
anything. But it as itself as a solo project, that has a beginning and an end. I thought they did a great job, and maybe they should be more focused on telling those good stories up front. I mean, we were talking about this in the group chat, right? But this idea that Tom Holland is arguing with people who are making Spider-Man 4, going, "Why are we making this? Like, do you have a good reason to make this, or are we just making it because we have to make it?" I saw him in an
Right.
interview say something along the lines of, "They come to me with like the set pieces first, and then they try to write the story," and I'm like, "Their set pieces are getting in the way of the story." And I kind of felt that way with his trilogy, especially when you start getting to the later films. It's like we have this big fight. Well, how do we get there? I don't know. They're all in the same place somehow, some way. Like, okay, what? Like he does a big London Bridge fight in Far From Home at the end of that. He fights drones, but they're just drones, right? So where's the? There's no like real investment there, and then it all just kind of wraps up. Um,
Right.
this felt like it had stakes, even though it wasn't the end of the world. You cared deeply about everyone individually, therefore, you cared about their motivations and definitely cared about their safety. And I wanted Ben to overcome. I wanted him to get better. I'm glad that he had
It had,
people
it had
around him.
personal stakes,
Yeah,
which
I'm
is which
also
is a
glad that he had
lost
people
freaking
around
art.
him. It's one thing to be the gloomy, loner, gritty, noir, or even like Batman-esque hero, right? And I don't need any friends, this is why I work alone kind of stuff. But I am loving this new trope of like, yeah, but guess what? We love you, you miserable bastard. Like it doesn't. You're not gonna shake us. Like we care about you too much. Yeah, okay. Moan and drink and get gritty. And when you're done, come out and we'll have a birthday cake for you. You know what I'm saying? Like we still care about you. We're not leaving you in the dust. We know that where your true heart is. Um, that's the kind of stuff that does save lives, in my opinion. That sort of community and that sort of the people having people around you that could tell you what's what. Extremely, extremely important. And the last thing I'll say is that I love how unapologetic Nick Cage was. Sometimes comic books can get up their own butts a little bit
Oh yeah.
about how serious this stuff is supposed to be. And the more serious it gets, the more I find myself enjoying the simplistic children's versions of some of these characters because it just gets the point across where sometimes the gritty nature just muddies it. And these stories are ultimately supposed to be morality tales. So I don't necessarily need a bunch of media that's like, maybe you shouldn't be good. It's like, what is that? Like, we have enough of that media out that exists. This genre specifically, in my
Seriously.
opinion, is supposed to be aspirational. And so I think that it ended on a great note of community, of no man, does anything alone. The idea that he gives half of the business to Ruiz, to Janet, like that's amazing. The fact that Robbie says, "Okay, screw those guys over at the Daily Bugle. I'm going to start my own thing." There's so many good lessons to learn from the heroes in this, or just the general normal people in this who are just trying to survive. You can be the Lonnie Lincolns of the world. You can be the megawatts of the world, where you either are forced to do terrible things in order to keep your head afloat, or because bad things have been done to you, you feel like bad things should be done to others, or you can have a good village around you that motivates you, that tells you what's what, that promises to stick by you, and you can overcome and you could be better. And that's overall the feeling that I got from this. So on the messaging alone, I think this is worth a watch. I'm glad that it exists in a way that I wasn't. I'm almost certain I've said in other podcasts, like, this is not the thing I was looking forward to because I feel like Sony has a lot of mess they need to clean up. And so to
Big time.
I've been around a bunch of young children lately, and I see the epidemic of pulling out a bunch of toys and then leaving them and then going to start another thing somewhere else. And I get that anxiety with Sony of like, clean up the Venom mess that you made, please. Clean up the the Morbius and Craven mess before you start telling me that you're working on Spider-Man Noir. But again, like Joker, and that was very similar. DC was cratering in 2019 when Joker came out. You know, it was the absolute, or 17. I can't remember what year that thing came out. But they were closing that universe. Like it was literally getting smashed against the rocks, the Snyderverse. And then they come out, they're like, oh, by the way, we're working on a art house Joker movie. I'm like, why? Can you fix Superman, please? Can you fix that universe? But similarly, I think that that was an important project as well. Penguin, you know, like no one asked for that Penguin series, but it ended up being
Oh
incredibly
yeah.
compelling. So I have to remind myself to wait and see with some of this stuff because even though it may not be what I needed or what I asked for, sometimes I don't know what I want until I see it.
Right.
And I did eventually leave this wanting more. So did something right. If you find yourself wanting more of the Major Issues podcast, you could just go ahead and go to comicbookclick.com, which is the one-stop shop for everything comic book click. It's all of the episodes of the Major Issues podcast. We're on episode 436, so it's over 800 hours of content of us talking about every single thing under the sun and more. It's been an absolute delight to talk to my friends and chop it up about comic books and comic book media. So go ahead and check out those conversations that we have over there. We have an international review team that's busting their butt to put out comic book reviews each and every day from all corners of the world. Those guys work tirelessly to put out opinions on the latest and greatest to come to comic books. So thank you to those guys over there. But go ahead and check out those reviews. Our merchandise lives over there. You can hit that shop CBC button at comicbookclick.com and it'll take you to our shop where we have one of a kind designs designed by me and we get a kickback of everything purchased. So consider buying something from our shop that you will own a piece of Comic Book Click, but also that we get to get a little bit of a kickback here. We do all of this content free of charge, which means that sometimes, a little bit of a kickback of anything is greatly supported. If I don't have to cook and I can buy a burger from a from a Patreon subscription or from kickback from the merch, that helps save time with these in-depth reviews, with these in-depth recordings, because everybody in Comic Book Click is a volunteer. We give our time, we give our energy to this stuff. So anything reciprocal, even if you tell a friend to tell a friend, word of mouth is how we've gotten as far as we have. In April, we broke 60,000. We're on the cusp of breaking 64,000 in just that short amount of time. On Facebook, we're getting more subscribers and more views on YouTube. A rising tide is raising all ships. We are interviewing some big names in the industry. Coming up next, we just put out our interview with David Pepos of Space Ghost and Speed Racer fame. And next week, we're putting out our Brian Michael Bendis episode. Really, really cool. We got some other stuff cooking up soon in the world of tabletop RPG, in the world of going back in the world of classic comics. It's going to be a really, really fun time over here. And we're getting bigger and we don't know how we're going to handle it. So it's been really, really fun conversations behind the scenes about new pieces of content, about new team members, about an overall overhaul of the website. The identity of Comic Book Click is evolving. The content is evolving. We got new video series that we're about to green light, but we already have major hauls once a week. We have major previews once a month. Both of those are done by Alex Garcia, aka the Comic OG, where he shows you in major hauls his weekly haul and why he picked those books. And major previews is him and a member of the Click talking about the comics that they're looking the most forward to in that month. We're all over social media, facebook.com/comicbookclick, Instagram at comicbookclick, and you can use that hashtag comicbookclick to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things. Come to comic books and comic book media. We're at Major Issue CBC on Twitter, at Major Issue CBC on Twitch. And when you're done checking out all things Comic Book Click, go ahead and check out the things over at Dirt Sheet Radio, which shares a little bit of the real estate over at comicbookclick.com. Jonathan Escudero, aka Yogi, CBC correspondent, actually heads things over at Dirt Sheet Radio, and they're the industry leaders in all things professional wrestling and pop culture. They are killing the game, being noticed all over The anticipation has never been higher as they are covering CMLL, AAA, WWE, TNA, AEW, and more. Those guys work tirelessly each and every week to provide um, post show coverage, during the show coverage, live reactions, all that and more. And then when he gets the time, he comes over here and chats with us about Comic Book Click. So love what they're doing over there. Love my boy Yogi over there handling business with DSR. So go ahead and check out some of the stuff from For Cheat Radio, who will be joining us in this evolution next couple years of Comic Book Click. So super excited about that. If you wanted the people to find you, Frank, where could they find you?
Primarily Facebook, and I am on Twitter and Blue Sky, and I think I'm Surf Monkey FTJ on both of those.
Okay.
Um, I'd have to double check that for sure, but I think that's right.
Yeah.
But
Shout out my boy Frank again. Frank's doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes, helping us grow. He's got some irons in the fire in regards to a brand new video series you need to be on the lookout for. And he has also helped tremendously with our social media and our ability to reach all you guys with the reviews that we're doing. So incredibly thankful for you, Frank, being on this team. And our team just, keeps getting better, keeps growing. It's really exciting time to be a part of Comic Book Click. So also I want to say, if you go to our social media, there's actually a sign up form. If you think this is something you want to do, if you want to be part of the podcast, if you want to, I mean, Frank, you dropped out of the sky and you're writing comic book reviews. We're talking to comic book creators. We're doing this Matrix podcast. It all happens fast. It all happens fun. This is part of the party that you guys want to be a part of. So if you enjoyed this, if you enjoy what we do, if you enjoy our social media, consider signing up to help us write articles, to help us continue our social media presence, to help us with this podcast. All of this is a labor of love. And as we keep linking arms, it's going to be arms across America with CBC because this thing ain't never stopping. So get on the bandwagon before the bandwagon gets full because we are going to. But I think that's all I got in terms of bugs. So we can go ahead and close this out by saying, my name is George Serrano, aka The Don.
fantastic, Frank Jerome.
This has been our Spider-Noir recap and review. And remember, whether you get drunk and accidentally let out your secret identity, get stabbed with syringes in weird places, have rock-like skin, electricity, or just a man made of sand, remember, never trust the lounge singer. Remember that we are the Click, and always remember that you, yes, you, are worthy.